Welcome into the 7-round mock draft for the Tennessee Titans. And y'all, this one hits a little close to home. I live right outside of Nashville. I have lived in Tennessee for the majority of my life. I work like 5 minutes away from the Titans Stadium, or the old Titans Stadium, however you want to look at it. And most of my friends are Titans fans, and they're callous, and they've lived life a little harder than the rest of us, all right? And I understand it. Look, I've started being a Dolphins fan. I was born into being a Dolphins fan post Dan Marino. So I get it. I do. But I have a kinship towards this team, all right? So I'm going to try and build this team the best way I can after a free agency period that I didn't totally agree with, but I liked some of their moves. Let's go ahead and get right into their mock draft. All right, guys, and here we go. We do not have to wait long to make our first. Okay. So I'm gonna reject all these trades, especially for the number 1 pick. I'm not gonna trade at all in this class, even though I definitely hope the Titans make some moves. You look at their draft class, 2 picks inside the top 100 isn't exactly where I'd want to be, and we got a lot of depth pieces that we can definitely look at. I'm excited to talk about some of these options, but ultimately, I'm not gonna go off script here. All right, it's gonna be Cam Ward. I'm just gonna tell you guys that right now. Cam Ward is the best quarterback in this class. I do think that we're getting to a point leading up to the draft where really there's not going to be any more discussions. It's pretty much decided. Cam Ward either is going to be the first pick for the Titans, or the Titans are going to take a massive haul and it'll be the first pick for some other team, right? And it's a good pick. He is far and away the best quarterback in this class. The gap between him and Shedeur Sanders from just the arm talent alone is significant. And then add on to the fact that I don't think you really want to bring in a Shedeur Sanders and, deal with the repercussions of what that means, really. I mean, the Dion effect is going to be a real effect. That's a whole other conversation. We don't really need to think about that because we know what the pick is at quarterback. And I do believe we're going to start seeing more and more mocks where this is the slam dunk pick. We're going to start seeing, the sports books, the odds for Cam Ward's already pretty high, but it's going to start getting into the minus 10,000 odds really, really soon. All right. So if you want to put down some heavy money on Cam Ward to go number 1, I think it's a pretty damn safe bet. And look, to my fellow Titans fans, to some of my very good friends who are apprehensive about this idea, because that is a real thing. I do think there's fans out there that don't love the idea of taking a quarterback to put on a team that just isn't that good. And we've heard this story before. Look, Titans fans, they're callous. These are some tough motherfuckers. If you've been a Titans fan for the past 20 years, you've been through it. There's nothing, you can't hurt a Titans fan. They've been hurt enough. There's no pain that you can give them. So when I tell you that Cam Ward is hope, yeah, there's no such thing as hope to a man who has none. And Titans fans don't have much anymore. This can be the guy that changes the fates for an entire franchise, all right? And look, you don't come around the opportunity to pick that guy very often. So we're going to go with Cam Ward. We're going to make the decision to change the Titans' fates for the better, and we're going to take Cam Ward, and we're going to see what happens next. So looking here with the 35th pick, the 3rd pick in the 2nd round, we got a lot of options. We have a ton of options. Let's look at some of the things that would make the most sense. Interior offensive line is going to make a ton of sense. Zabel is definitely going to be in that conversation in this range. I like him in this range a lot. I think Tate Ratledge is going to go a lot earlier than people think. He's going to go – I really think he's going to be like a top 55 pick. We could definitely go Josh Connerly. He's a guy who I do expect to go in the back end of the 1st round. I really do. We could go offense. Now, obviously, we're never going to beat the amazing signing of Dan Moore from the Steelers, giving him the bag. Don't look up his numbers if you're a Titans fan and you're excited about that. That was an interesting move. I do think we got to go offensive line at some point. We don't have many premium picks left as far as where we can get a real value on an offensive lineman. So if we take an offensive lineman to help protect Cam Ward, there's value in that. There's real value in that. Where else we could go? We could definitely go defense. There's going to be a lot of names. Okay, so I'm going to tell you right now, I don't really see a world where Mike Green is still here. Speed rusher out of Marshall had an absolutely insane season this past year. I've seen him mocked as early as top 10. I think he's a top 10 guy. I think he's a top 25 guy. I do. I mean, he's just a classic explosive speed rusher. So that is definitely a conversation that you would have. There's so many names here. I think the Titans, if they wanted to go edge, if they wanted to go defensive line, I mean, you're not going to go D tackle. We took Sweat last year. We got Simmons, so we're not going to go D tackle. But if we wanted to take an edge, there's a lot of different types of guys that we could take. There's going to be a lot of names here, even outside of the names that we see on this list right here. I'm just going to tell you, Nick Scorton could fall, Donovan Ezeruku could fall. There's a lot of names that are going to go. James Pierce Jr. could still be there. I mean, these are the types of names that absolutely could be there at 35. In this particular mock, they're not. Mike Green is. It's going to be really, really hard for me not to take Mike Green. I think that is just insane value at this spot. I prefer offensive line. You can find a guard in the middle of this draft, all right? You can find a guard in the middle of this draft. Wide receiver, it does start to get a little hairy. I mean, Mbuka is definitely a guy that could help your team out. He could help out Cam Ward immediately. I don't love it for the Titans because the Titans need to find a star at wide receiver. We got Calvin Ridley living out kind of the tail end of his career. We don't really have much else. We've signed Van Jefferson. The Burks experiment got somebody fired and really has not worked out at all. I could definitely see a Trey Harris here. I love his explosiveness. I love his ability. I mean, he's from Ole Miss. He kind of gives me a little bit of like A.J. Brown vibes. So if you're trying to hit on an A.J. Brown type again, maybe Trey Harris is your option. If you wanted to go wide receiver, I don't think we're going to do that. I think ultimately we're going to go edge. But I wanted to just point out a couple other positions that definitely make sense to me. Mike Green being here, that's just an insane value. And look, we're going to go ahead and get it. I would like to look at cornerback. Trey Amos is an option. Benjamin Morrison would be an option. I think Maxwell Hairston is going to go a lot earlier than people think. Explosive guy. But let's just go ahead and take Mike Green and see where we end up. All right, and here we are with the first pick in the 4th round. And, yeah, I mean, look, a lot of names just went off the board. A lot of really, really good, impactful players went off the board. Let's see what we're left with here. I'm not taking a wide receiver in this range. I think we missed on that as far as the names that I would like. I could see you talking about the TCU kid in this range, maybe, but this feels a little early. But if I'm being 100% honest with you, I feel like really you run out of names that I like or that I think have a chance to be impactful year one in the tail end of the second round in this class. The wide receiver class just isn't super, super deep this year. It's unfortunate because we could absolutely use one. We didn't have the picks. I do think, again, the Titans at the 35th pick in the draft, if they can move back and add a pick in the 3rd round, that would do wonders for this team. That would be my ultimate goal for the Titans. Trade back the 35th. You can still get a good edge. You can still get a wide receiver or a guard or something. Those are really valuable picks in this draft. There's a lot of good names there, especially at the interior offensive line and the defensive line position. So let's see where we like at offensive line. I will say there's some tackles here that are going to be guards, and Charles Grant is one of the names that I really like out of William and Mary. He's a guy that I definitely think could transition to guard. If you wanted to draft a tackle, you could take Trapillo, but we just paid a tackle who is supposedly worth it and a very valuable tackle that's going to be great for the Titans and definitely won't be a bad signing at all. And then we have a guy who I really like, J.C. Latham from last year, who's moving over to right tackle. That's his natural position. I think he's going to do well. All right, we got Skoronski in the middle. We signed Kevin Zeitler for a year. That's a little bit of a rental, so we got to add a guard to help out the offensive line moving forward. And obviously, injuries are very, very common in the NFL, so we got to have another piece there. We just have to. Charles Grant would be my pick. I would move him over into guard, and that would be my spot here. I like him. I don't think he gets out of the day two. I really don't. But just looking over at defensive side, Jack Sawyer still on the board. We could double up on D-line. I don't hate that at all. Jack Sawyer, feisty, lunch pail type of guy. He fits the Tennessee mindset, I feel like. I would really like him. Josiah Stewart, a little bit on the smaller side, I feel like. I don't know. I mean, this is about the range he's going to be in. He's feisty, and he works hard, and he plays hard, but he's definitely a guy that's going to fall in this draft just because he's not going to fit some of the measurables that teams are going to ultimately be looking for. But in this spot, I definitely would consider it for sure. I would definitely think we got to look at cornerback. We got to look at corner and safety. Billy Bowman is definitely a name I'm going to think about as safety out of Oklahoma. A little undersized. That doesn't bother me at all for the safety position specifically. I think you see a lot of really, really high-level safeties. Throws his body around. Very, very instinctual. Very well coached with Venables being there. This is a guy. This is one of the better names on this board right now for me, and yeah, I mean, that's something I'm really going to think about. So I'm, at least for me, and again, it sucks. Where's our next pick? We got the 120th pick. Billy Bowman's not going to be there. There's a drop-off for me at safety. I like Jalen Reed out of Penn State, so that wouldn't be the worst option if we waited. And then, obviously, you could also just go cornerback. Again, I feel very similarly about the cornerback position as I do the wide receiver position in this class. There's some really good names that I like. Cornerback a little deeper. It gets into the third before we run out of names that are going to be impactful, but I don't think any of these names for me are guys that I really I'm not going to lean on year one, all right? I'm definitely not. And with the first pick at 103, there's still a couple names left that I think can have real value year one. So I'd rather lean towards those names. Billy Bowman is a starter from day one for me. They did sign Xavier Woods to, I feel like, a really small 1 or 2 year contract. He's near the very end of his career. Maybe he would be the starter this year. I think Billy Bowman is going to get on the field from day one if we take him, and I think that's what we're going to do. I really like this player from this spot. Let's go ahead and take that. We got a pick at 120, and I'm really hoping some of the names that I just mentioned are still on the board. Josiah Stewart just went. All right. So edge, Jack Sawyer's still there. I mean, that's just insane value. I mean, yeah, I think he's I think it's like a top 60 pick when it's all said and done. I really do. I get it. I do get it. I understand why he's definitely not a first round guy by any means, but you just talk about a guy who came on strong at the end of the year, really put it all together late in the season. That has value to me. That has real value to me, and he has some pretty legit upside, I feel like. And I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of fixing a position, okay? So if we're not gonna turn into a Super Bowl team overnight. We're not gonna plug every single hole. So if I look at this team and I say, okay, you can take Cam Ward, you can help out the defense with Mike Green, who fell there, and he just fell in your lap. That's amazing. And then we can double up, add another piece, that probably 2 starters immediately. I mean, these guys are going to be fighting with Arden Key to start for them the year one. I think there's going to be some real snaps that these guys are going to be able to earn really, really early on. Now, like I said, I want guard. I want to add a guard. Our next pick is 141. And I think I'm going to play the game here a little bit, all right? I think there's enough names, because if we can't get Charles Grant, we can get Jalen Rivers, who I like out of Miami. There's a lot of really nice interior guys. Luke Kandra is a guy who I kind of like in this spot. There's definitely some names. Mike Frazier, guard out of LSU. There's some names to like in this range of the draft. I mean, look, I do expect a lot of these guys to fly off the board. I really do. But interior offense line is probably that, and running back is probably the deepest as far as the names that you're going to like on day 3. I mean, there's just going to be a lot of guys that I do think, a lot of tackles in college that are going to turn into guards, but a lot of guys that I do think are going to end up having starting jobs in the NFL. But let's go ahead. I think I kind of talked it through, but I'm going to go ahead and take Jack Sawyer here. I like that pick a whole lot for them. And then we'll see what happens with the 141st pick. All right, so getting into the 5th round, we're going to start talking about guys that have potential, guys that have upside. Now, I'm going to sit here and tell you, let's look at wide receiver. We got to help out the wide receiver position. lot of these are just a lot of guys that that don't ever really get me excited. Dante Thornton here out of Tennessee. He's 6'4", 205 pounds. He ran a 4.30 at the combine. Ridiculous. This is just an athlete. This is where you take athletes. I mean, he shouldn't be this low down on this board. We're going to think about him. Obviously, with the app, we can obviously wait and take him anyway, but I do think that would be a real conversation. Let's see. Charles Grant's still here. That's wild. That's wild. We're just going to take him. That's insane. I love that pick. I think Charles Grant is definitely I didn't think he had a chance to fall outside of the fourth round and really even the third. He's a guard. He's a starting guard from day one for me. I like him a lot. That's just one of those guys. Maybe that's just one of my guys. But all right, as we're looking at the 167th pick, let's go back and look here. Looking at this class, I mean, look, I think this would be amazing. We really, really attacked the defense with kind of the meat and potatoes of this class. We attacked the edge twice. We grabbed a safety in a pretty good safety class overall. And then we got a guard in the beginning of the fifth round that I do think could be a day one starter. This would be amazing if we have this type of result. Looking at the 167th pick in the fifth round, this is about where we run out of big names. I will say, I'm always going to look at a Seth McLaughlin. He's a guy who tore his Achilles, but he was a really good player. He's got over 1,700 snaps or something like that at the college level, and just a good interior player. Again, like I said, a lot of good depth on the interior. Now, again, that's not a name where you're going to get helped early on, obviously. Mike Frazier would be a name that I would really think about. I thought he played tackle in college. Okay, I guess he played all over the field. Like him a lot. I do think he's a guard in the NFL, but I've been seeing him viewed as a tackle, and I saw a lot of tackles earlier that are definitely guards in the NFL, so I was just confused. Running back is okay. Dylan Sampson is not going to be there at 169. I want to take him, but no. I mean, that's just not going to happen. He's not going to be there at 169, I don't think. A lot of these other names will be. Braden Smith, Jaquiz Hunter, R.J. Harvey is interesting. I like Tajay Brooks a lot. Devin Neal. Devin Neal is a name I love. I disagree with this ranking. Devin Neal is in my top 10 running backs. He would be a name that I would really think about. Kind of fits what the Titans do as well. So that's a name I would definitely think about at some point. I know we don't need running back, I get it, but we're entering near the end of the draft. The running back class is probably as good as we've ever seen, so there's going to be a ton of value taking one of these guys. We got Tony Pollard, I get it, we're paying him. I really like Spears, I do, but adding a name to that room would not hurt anything, and it would probably realistically be the most bang for your buck as far as the pick that you're spending on it. Ultimately, I'm going to go take a flyer on a guy I mentioned earlier, Dante Thornton, wide receiver out of Tennessee. Just, size speed guy. We're just taking a shot. But if we can put him on the outside, if we can let him grow with a Cam Ward, I think, look, there's potential for him. Cam Ward's got a rocket arm, so there's definitely potential for him to grow a connection down the field with Cam Ward. So we like that. Let's go back to the offensive line, see some of the names that are left. Yeah, okay. McLaughlin's still there. We're going to take him the 6th. This is possible. There's an injury. Probably not going to be ready year one, but if he's in this range, I think you have to take him, take another shot on offense. We're going to go ahead and do that, and then we will finish out this draft. Let's add another piece to either the secondary or, is there an edge guy that we like? Quay Robinson is a name that I would definitely consider here. We could take another edge, but I don't think that we would do that. I'm going to go ahead and take one of the running backs here. We're going to go ahead and grab Devin Neal with the 6th round and close it out there for you guys. Overall, I like this class, and I love doing a mock draft where I feel really, really confident that I got at least one pick right. Cam Ward will be a Titan. I really, really believe that. Looking at the second round and on, I think the strategy is right. Now, you can probably interchange the names. Like I said during the draft, I don't expect Mike Green to be there. I don't expect Jack Sawyer to be there in the 4th. I think we got pretty much every pick that I took are guys that I like a lot earlier. Now, it makes a lot of sense that we would double up at edge. We need help on the defensive line, and we're good in the middle, so let's help out the two defensive end positions. I think we could probably draft 2 starters in the middle rounds if we really wanted to do that. So yeah, let's take 2 if we can. We only have one day 2 pick, so taking the edge at the beginning of day 2 makes a lot of sense to me. I would prefer the trade down, get maybe a lesser player, but if maybe a Landon Collins falls, there's a lot of names that could definitely fall down that board. You could still take and then also get a corner or something like that. That probably is ultimately the best move for the Titans, but I digress. Looking down the rest of this roster, I talked out Billy Bowman. I really like that. I think he's a day 1 starter. And then we got a couple names on day 3, and I think that's kind of the reality of the situation. If the Titans came out of the 4th round with 2 offensive line prospects, I would like it, and I would tell you that at least one of them will be a starter for him in 2026, 2026 too, maybe, probably, right? I'm getting my years mixed up somehow. But overall, just looking at the strategy, taking away the names, I do think this is probably the right strategy for this class. We're going to draft the quarterback. If we can get a wide receiver in the 2nd or 3rd round, especially with a trade back, I wouldn't hate it. With the 35th pick, I think realistically the top 3 guys are off the board, and you're probably choosing between a bunch of guys that I'm not saying they don't belong there. I just think there's other positions that are more valuable with that spot. So I wouldn't go wide receiver there. And then for me, it just falls off. After we run out of some of those top names that go in the 2nd and 3rd round, I mean, we start off the draft with the 4th round, and I just don't see a wide receiver that'll be there. And if there is, great, we might take a wide receiver there. If not, we're going to take a flyer late, and we're probably not going to have a guy that projects to be an impact early on in his rookie season, right? So with that said, the way the board fell and the way things ended up going for the Titans in this exercise, it makes a lot of sense. Let's attack the defense, and let's attack the offensive line, and let's try and get better in the trenches more than anything else. If we can get better in the trenches, we can build out a roster that can be really, really good in a couple years. So, all right, that's my draft. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know what you would do. Do you absolutely hate the Cam Ward pick at number 1? If you do, that sucks, because I think that's what's going to happen in real life. What would you do with the rest of these picks? I'm really, really excited to hear what you think. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. This is a draft channel. We're doing draft stuff all the time. We love it. We live it. And we're really enjoying just going through the grind, talking draft profiles, mock drafts, all this stuff. It's a lot of fun. It's a great time of year. But all right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Peace.